Yep, I finally got it done. Hi everyone, my name is Anita and welcome to my channel, Flourish, Faith, and Fiber. And this is podcast number 37. And I am so glad to have you all join me for this podcast. And I just want to say a big welcome to all my lovely subscribers and my viewers as well. And if you are new to my videos, welcome in. And I am checking my notes because I have a few things that I really want to make sure I talk to you about. And so, yeah, if you see me looking down, it is to make sure I don't forget anything. So there are ways to connect with me that are listed in the description box below. I will say that my Facebook page is now going to be connected to a new adventure that I will be starting pretty soon, and I'll talk more about that later. But of course, Instagram, YouTube are the biggest ways that I am out there on social media. I do have a TikTok, and then absolutely email me with any questions or anything, and always the comments below. I do appreciate those. If you like the video, if you like what the content that I am putting out here on this channel, would appreciate thumbs up as well. All right, let's get started with finished objects. All right, finished objects or finished projects, and as the beginning of my video suggests, I got something done that I have been working on and talking about for a really long time, and that is my sock. I got my sock finished, and I changed yarns 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times. And as I said in an earlier podcast, it really wasn't all that difficult. You just have to realize that as you come back around, that the yarn might pull out a little bit, and then you just tug the ends, and eventually when you go back and sew the ends in, then it keeps it from pulling out anymore. And so this is what the inside looks like. I'll explain a little bit because you can see that I still do have ends, and they are woven in, but the reason they're there is because when I finish the second sock, then I'm gonna wash them, let the yarns, the fibers settle into place, and then I will go back and trim all these loose little bits. But yep, that is the first sock completed. And as I make the second one, I will remove these stitch markers and put them onto the second one to make sure that I get all the row counts done correctly. So yeah, it's a vanilla sock pattern from the Crazy Sock Lady. And I cast on 60 stitches, which means that I have altered her pattern or adapted her pattern just a little bit, because her sizing is 56 stitches cast on, 64 and 72. And I picked in between. I have a small foot, but I don't have that thin of a foot. Although now that I have been knitting socks, I might actually change and go down to 56 stitches. The other thing that I have learned to do when knitting socks is to cast on looser. I am a tight knitter, I'm a tight crocheter, and I have learned that if I cast on looser, it makes that first round a lot easier. This is my Yarnable subscription and by Hypnotic Yarns, and this colorway is called Mossy Hollow for the green, and the blue colorway is called Pollen Party. And not sure if it's 2023 or 2024 colorway or box, subscription box, but those are the two colors that I have used. So, yeah, my first time to change colors, and it was quite fun. My next goal, I think, with knitting, in sock knitting, let me say. So I do have the goal of knitting my first sweater, but my next goal in sock knitting is to do a little bit of some color work. And so I look forward to that. As I mentioned earlier, I do a heel flap and gusset, and it seems to fit so well on my foot that I just haven't tried and not really setting as a goal yet to try a different type of heel. I know that when you do stripe socks, that doing a different type of heel, like an afterthought heel, works a lot better. But I, right now, I'm going to stick with the heel that actually fits my foot the best. And I do cuff down as well. And so, yeah. So my sock is finished and ready to get the second one done. All right. Another finished project that I did another hat. I had mentioned in the last podcast that I found some yarn that I had purchased, brought back to South Africa. Now that we're back here in the US, I brought it back with me. It is called Songbird Stripes, and it is Hobby Lobby's I Love This Yarn. And so, yeah, so there is the hat. I did Mary, aka Mercy Triumphs, at Slow Crochet. I did her corner to corner hat, and I love the pattern. I think she finishes with ribbing. I just finish with a single crochet in the back loop for I'm trying to see if I can find the seam so I can put it in the back. But yeah, there is the hat. Normally I push my bangs out of the way, but there is the hat. And yeah, it's a single crochet in the back loop only. I learned that from Crystal at Bag a Day. And I like doing that because I don't always like the hats to go really, really low. And so if I've done a lot of the pattern and don't have much room for a ribbing brim, then that's what I choose to do. So there you go. Finished project number 2. And really like this pattern for hats. So it's a great pattern. So check Mary out at Slow Crochet. As always, and maybe I didn't mention this in the introduction, but I always put patterns, YouTube channels, websites, anything of people that I have mentioned or patterns that I've mentioned down in the description box below. And I kept pointing, and it really is down in the description box below. All right, so that is finished project number 2. I had a finished project from last week's episode that Kim at Yarning for a Smile noticed I forgot to put the picture up, and it was a bird amigurumi. It was the pattern Woodland Bird Amigurumi, a free pattern that I found on Ravelry. So I'll link that below. I'll put the picture here of the bird. I used cotton, I think it was cotton yarn that I had brought with me to North Carolina. And then for the funny looking green eyes, had used the color, the Mossy Hollow color from my socks, because it's all that I had. I didn't have any black yarn with me and I didn't have any safety eyes. But all of that information is in my last podcast, number 36, that I'll link up here. All right. So technically that wasn't a finished object for this week, but I did forget to put that picture in. So put it in this week so you could see it. It is a really cute pattern. My last finished project is connected to my socks, but every time I finish a sock, I make a granny square and I am connecting them together to make kind of a memory blanket of the socks that I have been making and following my sock learning to make socks journey. And so the last socks that I made was a pink pair from, again, my Yarnable subscription box by Hypnotic Yarns, and the colorway was Raspberry Cream. And I hadn't made a granny square yet because the box that I keep them in was packed away in my crate. And I had the yarn, but I didn't have the other granny squares because I am joining as I go. So I made a granny square with that yarn. That's the colorway Raspberry Cream. And I have connected it to the socks that I have made from the very beginning. This colorway was my very first sock that I made. Pretty much, well, almost all of them were the vanilla sock except for this last one. I made the morning coffee sock pattern by the Crazy Sock Lady, and out of this colorway. But yes, so this one was a sock for me. This was a sock for my husband. This one was the Raven Edgar Allan Poe themed box, so I gave that to my daughter. This is a cotton, I think it is cotton wool blend, and I made a shorty sock with that. So it was, I don't remember the brand who put it out. I want to say it was from one of the yarn shops, either Michael's or Hobby Lobby here in America. And then this colorway I made for my husband. This was actually, I crocheted a sock first, and then I was working with my pattern. After I had made this pair of socks, I was working with the pattern, trying to adapt it for my foot. So I made one sock, not a pair, with this colorway. But I put it in anyway because I made a sock. I knit a sock, even though I did crochet with it. I knit a sock, and it came after the pair that I made here, just to help me adapt my pattern for my foot. So there you go. So my thought is to connect across till I get it a good size. I'm thinking maybe like twin bed size, a little bit bigger than a lap blanket. And so I have got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 across. I might actually do 8 across because I will need to save inches or think about inches for doing a border around it. And so, yeah, so then I'm just going to go from here for the beginning and then go down as I make socks. Yeah, to commemorate my sock knitting journey. I don't think when I finish the blanket I will stop making socks because I really do enjoy making socks. And when I finish the second sock here, I will actually add, even though I will still have quite a bit of this mossy hollow. Yes, mossy hollow colorway. Even though I'll have quite a bit and may use it for cuffs or heels or scrappy socks, because I am finding I do have quite a bit of now getting scrap yarn, because even though I'm making granny squares, there's still quite a bit of yarn left over, especially when I make shorty socks. So I will still put both colorways in. I haven't decided though, I might actually make a granny square that has both colorways in it, just to remember that this was the first time I changed colors in a sock. So yeah, I think I might do it that way. I was thinking I'd make 2 squares with each color, but I'm thinking I'll make a square that blends both colorways together, just to remember that was my first sock where I changed colors. So that concludes all my finished objects. I think I did tell you, for my socks, I do use, I don't think I told you, a 2.5 millimeter 9-inch circulars. I do use a DPN for the heel flap and heel turn, and when I decrease and it gets too tight on the 9-inch circulars, I change to magic loop for the toe decreases. So yeah, that is what I use for making socks. Let's move on to works in progress. It's still a warm day here in Tennessee, but really the mornings are beautiful, very cool, and even now it's only 81 degrees. So for someone who grew up in Houston, Texas, where it is very hot and very humid, even at 81, it's still a beautiful day outside. So iced coffee is what's on the menu. All right. So I am involved in a crochet along by Litsa at Coco's Crochet. She is doing a 4-month crochet through the decades. They started with 1950s, and I say they. I did make a project, but I didn't get it in by the end of the month, and that was the end of August. 1960s was September's project, and you can find both of those in my last podcast as well, number 36. And this month, the month of October, is the 1970s. Now, I chose a project based on 2 things: the color palette. So I just Googled what is the color palette from the 50s, 60s, 70s, and then the last month will be the 1980s, and chose based on the color palette. And I will put a picture of 1970s color palette here. And I chose a project that was what you might call a fashion accessory. And so it's more than just a wearable, but something that you can incorporate into an outfit from each of the decades. So the 1950s, I made a headband because headbands were really big, and they took scarves and tied them in bows. So I made a headband. And the 1960s, geometric was huge. So I made a granny square geometric handbag or purse or market bag, whatever. The pattern is really fun, and depending on how big you make each granny square, it takes 3. You can use it as just a small handbag, a purse, or you make them bigger, you can use it as a market bag. And so that was September's 1960s, and I'm going to show you what I am doing for the 1970s. So first of all, as I mentioned in the last podcast, I am using this colorway right here because that olive avocado green and browns were pretty big in the 1970s. There's a little bit of tan, almost a yellowy tan color in there. And I love this yarn, print in the colorway Cobblestone Ivy. It is a 4-weight yarn, and I'm also pairing it with just an antique white. Again, I love this yarn, antique white. And this is what I have made so far. A granny square. There you go. I am not giving away anything else. It is something that involves a granny square, and it is a fashion, or will be a fashion accessory. So I'd love to know in the comments below, what is your guess that I am making for this crochet, hashtag crochet through the decades 2024 make along with Litsa at Coco's Crochet. So I'm working on that. My next whip is the hashtag hooking up with books. I'm calling it a whip, even though it's not on my hook yet. I have picked out the pattern, what I am going to make, and I will show you that I am combining, thanks to Cassandra at Craftably Ever After, who, along with Caroline at Caroline for the Love of Crochet, have been hosting hashtag hooking up with books. And Cassandra had people, she started a crochet along where people would take a picture and then mix and match different patterns to create. It was a cat that we made that was in blue overalls with a mushroom hat, and we were to get different elements from different patterns. So I have picked 2 patterns. They are very similar, but I am doing the doll, which I think the body is the same in both patterns, but I'm doing the doll pattern and the dress from one pattern, this one here. I thought the dress was really cute. I'm not doing it in the colors though that are shown. And I'm doing the hair that is in this pattern. Now, I probably am not going to do it blonde either. I haven't really decided. The book that we are doing the project for is the book Persuasion. And I have read the book. I have seen probably every movie or miniseries that has been released, and I just love it. It actually is my favorite Jane Austen book. And my phone is named after the main character, Anne Elliot. Yes, I have named all my devices after Jane Austen characters. But my phone is named Anne Elliot. And so I haven't decided exactly what color hair I'm going to give her. I do still have to pick out, make sure I have all the yarn ready for the project. And but yes, I call it a whip because I'm already planned and decided on what I'm going to make and what patterns I am using. And both patterns come from Amigurumi today. They're all free patterns if you get them off the website and you do sign up for their newsletter. That's the free version. You can actually pay money to get a printable version, PDF of their patterns. But great, they've got some really lovely patterns there. I have done several things from them because not being an Amigurumi primarily maker, I don't have a lot of books, and so I get a lot of patterns from their website. So for me, it's been worth, the newsletters don't come out very often, and so whenever they really have new patterns on their website, they'll send out a newsletter. And so it's not one of those that bothers you every day with 1 or 2 or 3 emails. So yeah, that is one of the works in progress for this month. My last work, and I put it away, my last work in progress is that I actually started my second sock. I have cast it on. I haven't gotten very far, but there you go. This episode really has been all about my socks. And I have cast on the next one, working on the ribbing. So now I can put it away. All right. I also want to mention, now that I have mentioned socks, that I have joined in another make-along. It is called Socktober 2024, or hashtag Socktober 2024. It is hosted by Mariette at De Boerfro. She is from South Africa, and De Boerfro, I will spell it here for you. It means the farmer's wife. And that she lives on a farm. And so anyway, she has hosted Socktober for several years now. This is my second year to join in. And so I am hoping to get this sock finished. She puts out a pattern every year for Socktober, and I really like the pattern that she has this year, and so hoping that I can actually start her pattern. If not, I will probably buy her pattern anyway and make it. So yeah, she's got some really wonderful patterns. She just came out with a sweater pattern, as well as, I think there's a cowl, if I'm not mistaken, that goes with it. And so, but I'll double check, and links are in the description box below. You can find her on Instagram as De Boerfro, and that's kind of where we're connecting. She puts, if you want, she will put you in the group, and you can chat along and post pictures of your progress making socks, what all you're doing. And she does host some kind of meetups. I think it's on Google Meets, but anyway, she hosts some meetups where we can actually see and talk to each other online. And so it's really exciting. It's really a fun month. But even if you don't join the sock along, she has some beautiful patterns and makes, and it's just all very calming. She just talks in a real calm way, and is very talented, very gifted. So yeah, I encourage you to check her out on Instagram as well as on YouTube. All right, that's my works in progress. What are my upcoming plans? All right, so Lisa at Happy to Hook Creations is going to be putting out, probably today, the winner of last month's greeting card crochet along. That just, things were crazy. I didn't participate last month, but she will be putting up the new greeting card, and I don't have it. If it's put up while I'm editing the video, I will put the picture in. If you don't see it, it is because she didn't put it up yet, and I got this edited and up running before she put that on her channel. But we will be doing a project based on the greeting card that she chooses for this month, and so I plan on joining back in this month to that crochet along. She also has a Facebook page where you can, or a group page where you can put your pictures up of your finished projects, and she does a drawing at the end of every month. And actually, the first month I participated, I won a prize from her, which was really exciting. So that's in the plans. I am joining in with a Christmas make-along by Anita, Gibney, and it is called The Gift of Christmas Cal 2024. It is a crochet blanket. Here is a picture. It comes in two colorways. The traditional colorway here, and this one is the retro colorway. It is the colorway that I purchased from Black Sheep Wools. She is partnering with them. They are both UK based, and I will put Anita's website and YouTube channel below and the link to Black Sheep Wools as well. You don't have to order the yarn from Black Sheep Wools. I chose to do that. It actually was a great price for the yarn, and the postage was almost as much as the yarn itself, which actually wasn't too terrible coming from the UK. So it is actually started. And so I will be a little bit behind because my yarn hasn't arrived. And so that is why it is a plan. But I'm hoping my yarn will get here. It is making squares. So I'm thinking that I could probably catch up within the first or second week, and so after I get my yarn. So that is up. It is 6 weeks. It is running through November 5th. And yeah, so that is plans. And then I have started a new bougie crochet wearable design. It is by Olga Poltava. I did show the yarn in last week's podcast and in the last bougie crochet wearable episode that I'll link here. And it is an oversized sweater of hers. And so I will be starting that soon, and look forward to that. I invited people from on that last podcast, and so I'm inviting you here. If you would like to join in and make the sweater, please do. I don't think necessarily you have to have the required yarn that she has put in, as long as you will be meeting gauge, or if you can, look at your gauge and try to determine if you need to make a different size from the pattern. She also puts a tutorial up on her YouTube channel, but would really love it if you support her by going to her Etsy shop, purchase the pattern, or at least heart the pattern or her shop, and that would really help her out a lot. And so yeah, so that will be coming up as well. There'll be a link to her Etsy shop and her YouTube channel in the description box below. The last big thing that I have going on is I am finishing up my course on technical editing, or tech editing, which means within the next week, by the end of next week, I should have everything set in place, from all the social media, Facebook page. I need to set up a website, those kind of things, that I will begin promoting my business as a tech editor. And so that is what I was hinting at about my Facebook page. My Facebook page will be geared now towards tech editing. It is still called Flourish, but it's Flourish Tech Editing. And It is a page where I want to connect with crochet designers who might be looking for a technical editor or trying to figure out, do they, what is a tech editor and is it really necessary, that kind of thing. So I'm hoping that page will take them to the website, but I also, with permission of crochet designers, would love to also post on that page designs that I have edited and just promote those designers. Designs and patterns and all of that. So I want it to be a place where crochet designers can flourish in their pattern design as well as in their business. And so, yeah, so I am very excited about that. And so that's the upcoming plans. That is everything as far as the fiber content. And thank you all for joining me through this part of Flourish, Faith, and Fiber. And we're going to move to the faith part, our Discovery Bible study together. All right, as you know, I have been going through the Old Testament. I am now in the book of 1 Samuel. I have started with chapter 1. And I can tell you a little bit about what's happening in chapter 1, read a verse, and then give you my thoughts on what it says about God, people, and how I would like to be more obedient. And so this is what happens. It starts out with Elkanah and his wife Hannah. Now, Elkanah actually has 2 wives, but Hannah is the main focus. Hannah has not been able to have children. And the second wife, many theologians think that he has a second wife because Hannah was unable to have children. Having children was highly important back in those days, and so he probably married a second wife in order to have children. And we do know that he loved Hannah deeply. I mean, it was his first wife, probably his choice of wife, and he loved her deeply, but she had not been able to have children. And the second wife, who Elkanah doesn't love as much as Hannah, decides to really give Hannah a hard time about not having children. Every year, he takes his wives and they go to a town called Shiloh, there to the temple, and they worship the Lord there. They sacrifice. And one year, when Hannah had had enough of this ridicule from the second wife, she goes into the tabernacle and prays. And this is what I want to read to you, is her prayer. It is 1 Samuel, and it's chapter 1, and it is verse 11. And it says this: making a vow, she pleaded, Lord of armies, if you will take notice of your servant's affliction, remember and not forget me, and give your servant a son. I will give him to the Lord all the days of his life, and his hair will never be cut. And she is praying so fervently that the priest comes out and thinks that she's been drinking a little too much. And she's like, no, it's morning. I haven't been drinking, and I am weeping. I am crying out to God for his help. And so I love that Hannah called God the Lord of armies. Now, this is taking place during the time of Judges, and they have been fighting. A lot of the Canaanites, the Israelites during Joshua's time conquered the promised land, and then they were divided into the 12 tribes into their areas that the Lord had allotted for them where to live, and they were to finish conquering, and they hadn't. And so they were getting a lot of grief during the time of Judges from many Canaanite nations there. And so there was a lot of fighting going on. And I think Hannah had probably seen the Lord fighting for Israel. And she's crying out to God, the Lord of armies, will you fight for me? And I love that. And the Hebrew for that is Yahweh Sabaoth. Sabaoth, Sabaoth. And God did. He remembered her. And he did fight for her in a sense. He allowed her, gave her the ability, healed her, however you want to term it, so that she could conceive a child. And so maybe this second wife would stop mocking and ridiculing her. And he opened her womb so that she could have a child. And the child born to her was Samuel. And vows back then were very important. And Hannah made a vow and she kept it, which I think had to be really hard for her, because it says at the end of chapter 1 that she waited until Samuel was old enough to be weaned before she went back to the temple. As I said, Elkanah took his family there every year, but she waited. The next time she went was when Samuel was weaned, and she went and she left Samuel at the temple to serve the Lord. How difficult that must be. But she was obedient in keeping her vow to the Lord. We don't know anything about her prayer. Was this the first time that she really turned to the Lord and cried out to him to help? It says that it was year after year she kept being mocked. And I just got to wondering, did she wait until she absolutely hit rock bottom? And the reason I wonder that is because I think human beings, we all have a tendency to wait till we really get desperate, and then we turn to the Lord in prayer. It doesn't say that in Scripture. We don't know that. But it does make me wonder why we either wait or we try to fix it ourselves and work hard before we get desperate enough to say, Lord, please will you fight for me? So it leads me to thinking, don't wait. I don't need to wait till I hit rock bottom or get so desperate or feel like, if my prayer isn't answered, then I'm don't know what I'm gonna do, and get to that desperate situation type of feeling before turning to the Lord, to lay out my prayers, my concerns before him sooner rather than later. It also reminded me, I'm going through a study with ladies at my church on Revelation. It is a Jen Wilkin Bible study. If you know her, if not, check her out. She's got some amazing Bible studies, but this one in particular, I'm really enjoying it over Revelation. But we were talking about the seventh seal being opened and there was silence in heaven, and how that relates to Exodus, when God parts the Red Sea. He tells Israel, just stand still. There's the famous, well-known verse, Psalm 46:10, that says, be still and know I'm God. Actually, if you read the whole psalm, there is fighting going on in that entire psalm. And God says, stop fighting and watch me work. And so that just leads me to thinking I need to run to him sooner rather than later. And whatever it is that you are going through, I beg you, turn to him. Psalm 138, verse 3, that has been so special to me this year, says, on the day I called, you answered me. God will answer, even if it is to give us peace or to strengthen us. He will answer. So I hope this has been an encouragement to you, and I hope you all have a wonderful day. Thank you again for joining me. Bye-bye, y'all.